Our next designer who's showing their work today is Shakeel Mohamed from Seattle. Shakeel, over to you.
Thanks so much, Lishan. Hi, Louise.
Hi, Shakeel.
Pleasure to meet you. Thank you
You
so much
too.
for making the time. Okay, great. So let's get into this deck. So, hi, everyone. My name is Shakeel Mohamed. I'm a developer turned designer, born and raised here in Seattle. So, Rachel, appreciate a lot of the nods to the Seattle culture there in that project. So, I had a whole career as a developer, studied computer science as undergrad. I've never taken a design class in my whole life, fully self-taught. So let's kind of get into it. And so the key idea I want to share today is that 1 year can change your whole life. So last year I attended the portfolio festival. I brought my very first design portfolio and I got some great feedback in the private review and I was overwhelmed. I was like, oh no, I have a lot of work to do. So all the mental chatter, the imposter syndrome, all that came about. And my core goal last year was to apply to MFA programs in design, and we'll explore what actually happened. So getting into my first project, this is the Inclüsion Tee, which was an apparel branding project. Real quick, I have to give a nod to Virgil Abloh, rest in peace, who was one of the most inspirational forces for me in this career transition. He actually passed in November last year while I was in the middle of applications, and I just kind of had to push that to the side and stay focused. So little acknowledgement there. His brand was Off-White before he went on to go and lead menswear at Louis Vuitton. Okay, so now getting into what I actually did. So I started a company in 2018, which started as a clothing brand, did that for 1 year, and then fell in love with actually doing branding projects, and so pivoted to do that for clients. And so this was the most. Oh, sorry. Let me give some context here. So the company was called Intersect, which is the word intersect without the vowels, and the X is the simplest representation of an intersection. I was really inspired by intersectionality and embracing every aspect of my own identity, and I think each of us has our own intersection of all the different qualities and personalities that make us who we are. And so that was sort of the premise of the entire brand. Okay. So from those days, that 1 year of running the clothing brand, this was the most successful graphic. Sorry. It spells out inclusion in this kind of 3x3 thing. And the core idea here was that you, the letter, represents you, the individual, being at the center of an inclusive environment, creating inclusivity. We all have that responsibility to bring that forth wherever we go. So there's that. And just quickly kind of showing here like a quick sketch that I had done earlier to kind of the final mock-up that I had put together here, thinking from sketch to reality. And then I got to art direct some photo shoots. So this was super fun. Got some of that. And then on the top right was a DJ who actually wore the shirt during a performance at a nightclub here in Seattle. So super fun. That's project number one. My eyes on the timer here because I have a lot to get through. Okay, second project was 36 Days of Type that I participated in last year. For those who don't know, this is a challenge that happens every year on social media, where designers from around the world will basically take one letter or number per day and do their own creative expression on that. And so for me, this was right after I had left my job as a software engineer, and I wanted to really push myself creatively to try a bunch of different new styles. And so here are some sketches, both digital and analog. Just a little bit of daily process. And I'm going to kind of go through these quickly, just punching in on a few of my favorites here. So this is C and F. And then here is I on the left, playing on this idea of I, the body part, and I, the letter. This J was done with duct tape, masking tape, and Sharpie, just doing something totally different, analog. Definitely want to do more stuff like this later on. Playing with just different techniques entirely. This M was inspired by a jazz album cover, just pulling references and inspiration from anywhere, designing very instinctively over these few days. And so this is the full collection of the 36 letter forms. I'll just pause there for a second. And then what I'll call out is that the letters G, H, and X were animated with After Effects. And so we'll see a quick little motion bit here with some sound, hopefully. Okay, we can go back to that if there's more time at the end. On to the next project. This is the 85th Salgira, which was an international festival branding project I worked on. And you all are probably wondering, what on earth is that thing? So let me give you some context on that. So this man is the Aga Khan IV, who is the spiritual leader of the Ismaili Muslim community globally. And you'll notice this flag to the right behind him is the Ismaili community flag. So just pay attention to that green and red. It will prove to come back here in a second as I give some story here. So the brief I was given for this project was to convey this idea of shukr, which means gratitude in Arabic, conveying the number 85. So Salgira is his birthday, essentially. And so this was his 85th birthday, so hence the 85th Salgira. And the fact that this project would go out globally, it would be used by at least 21 countries around the world. And so this is kind of taking a little survey of what had been done since the pandemic began in terms of other festival brands over that time. On the top right was Salgira from December 2020. And what I designed was for December 2021. So these were sort of the ideas that were kind of in the back of my mind and ultimately became the inspiration for my design. So pulling everything from the top left, this is called a transmission tower, not a power tower. And Islamic design, like this piece here on the top right. I'm a big fan of electronic music, so even pulling references from Deadmau5's live performances. He has this like big panel of LEDs. And on the bottom right is a piece by MC Escher. And now when we see the final mark, this is what I call the 5-ring motif. And so you might be curious why I'm saying 5 rings when there's 3 visible. So if you look a little bit closer, there's actually 2 rings here in the negative space. And so each ring consists of 17 diamonds, and you get 5 rings, 17 by 5, you get 85, which is the 85th Salgira. So then we thought about, okay, what kind of colors do we want to bring into this? So we tried a bunch of different things and went back to the Ismaili flag. And this was the final mark we came up with, embracing the red and green to really bring that sort of festive vibe to the festival. All right, so another influence here on the mark itself I wanted to call out. So if you recall in the brief, we had this idea of shukr and gratitude that we wanted to pull out. So on the left is the Arabic character for sheen, which is the first letter in the word shukr when it's written out in Arabic script. And on the right, you'll see these sort of 3 diamonds within the Arabic script I've called out, translate directly to the 3 visible rings within the mark. So that was kind of the influence there from the Arabic script itself on that core idea of gratitude. And these were 2 other variations of the logo within the family. Designed a pattern as well, which is based on this diamond shape, and that gave this very interesting kind of like 3D feel by accident. Okay, and then here I have some motion graphics for this project as well. again, we can go back if we need to. So everything in this project up till what you see now was all done by me. And I mean, I kind of blew myself away when I was looking back at it after kind of delivering the full brand package, sending out that final Google Drive link. And then that package went out to all these 21 countries. And then even more special things happened, which I could not have predicted. And this was like the really humbling stuff. So all the different countries ran their own digital marketing campaigns. I'll just call out a couple of things here. So on the top left was a social media post done in Afghanistan. And then to the right of that was the Ismaili Global website. And then there's some other social media and video posts here, including the logo description, which got to go out and be shared publicly, which was really nice. Photo backdrops. This was at a retirement home in Calgary. So these elders in the community getting to celebrate in their own way with masks and such. This is like in this very mountainous region in northern Pakistan. I didn't even know they're able to print things like banners. Obviously, it got cluttered a bit here, but yeah, that's there. Lishan, I see you. I'm moving. I'm almost done. Did not expect my logo to be on a cake. I mean, that's just like mind blowing. So both of these are from Houston, Texas. And then this one really this floored me. Seeing my logo at the Dubai World Trade Center. Unfortunately, I was not able to go and see this in person. And I had no idea this was happening, but the community there had an external celebration. And so, yeah, that happened. And then inside the venue, they had digital signage up on stage. So they had different musical performances that happened. And you see the pattern there as well as the primary mark. And then this is the last piece of design. So there was some more signage done and wristbands to enter the venue. Yeah, so cool. That was some work. So what happened, right? This whole idea was, okay, 1 year can change your whole life. And so really what happened in that time between, last year's festival to applying for MFA programs was I redid my whole portfolio about 5 times. Like I threw it out from scratch completely, got more feedback, threw it out again, repeated that process a few times. And then this project that I just showed wrapped up in the middle of December, and then MFA applications were due in the middle of January. So I basically didn't leave my desk for 1 month. It was a really intense time, but I think the effort was well worth it because I'm going to ArtCenter. So I got accepted into the MFA in graphic design at ArtCenter, and I'm starting this fall in September, which means, yes, I'm moving from Seattle to LA. So remember, 1 year can change your whole life. Thank you so much, Louise. Appreciate you listening patiently as I kind of slammed on here. I know I've got like 13 minutes on my timer. Real quick, want to thank, everyone who's watching. I'll catch up on the chat shortly. Feel free to reach out. I have all my social media links on my website, shakeel.design, and just want to call out the typefaces I use are Freight and Proxima Nova. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Shakeel. I'm so excited for you that you're going to go to ArtCenter. I know it's a lot. And it's also, I have to say, when you're like in the moment, it's hard to like watch that clock, to how much time things will take. And I just loved your enthusiasm about the Salguira. Is that the name of it?
Yeah, Salguira.
Yeah, Salguira. I just loved your enthusiasm and that you kind of like put it out there and, you were able to see how it manifested in the world. One thing, do you want to stop the share and then we could just like chat here? Like one thing that it pointed out that I've been thinking a lot about is, design is about meaning, and how it will be understood. And, when I was looking at your Intersect project, and you're explaining it to me, and I'm thinking, Oh yeah, I can see how he sees it, but I actually can't read it that, I don't see that. I'm not reading the words. I think there was like a cross or something. I didn't read it as intersect. So design is all about meaning, connotation, denotation. And I'm sure, once you get into the MFA studies, there'll be more discussion about that. And you are self-taught. That is absolutely a way in. So, you are one of the things, and why I wanted to talk about Salgira and what was interesting to me is some of the language, the visual language that you use. For example, the red and green color palette. My white girl American meaning of that is Italian. We've been seeing that for years. It just means Italian to me. So I'm thinking Italian. But for you, for your audience, for your culture, that can mean something else. And as a designer, having to make things for different audiences and different cultures, that's a challenge. You can't assume what things mean in that culture, what their visual language is, and how that's understood. So it means what they call today a kind of cultural literacy, in the conversations that you have with the audiences and people that you're working with if you're not part of that community. So I want to point that out. I want to say to you that you're coming from a developer background may be your superpower. And even though I completely understand that you have put that aside in order to focus on this other incredible challenge and achievement, I think and I hope and maybe it's going to come back and be your superpower, that you are both going to understand how coding and visual design can work together in kind of incredible ways, because it's all kind of like moving in that direction, and that you have this other experience and skills. And for any designer, particularly going back to school to get an MFA, it does not have to be from graphic design. And I think for many designers who are returning to school, they have to see what their education was previously, or that area of work that they were in will end up being their superpower. They bring a knowledge and experience that people who have come straight from graphic design may not have. They'll have other superpowers. The other thing that seems to come through is your interest in animation, which is another thing where coding also comes in and can be used. So I'm going to stop there because we have 1 minute and you may have a specific question for me.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you so much. And this idea of bringing in my development experience into design is definitely there. It's cooking, it's ruminating. Yeah. If you know Talia Cotton from Pentagram, she works with Michael Beirut and Georgia Lupi. And so she's really super niched into this idea of even doing generative brand identities. Yes. So I've seen her work that's really interesting. So I had a couple of questions, but I'll just ask you, what was your MFA experience like?
Oh, so I did go back to school when I was probably a good 10 years into my career. So I knew, one, I was interested in becoming an educator. Two, that design was a cultural practice, and I want to talk more about that. And I had a mentor at the time, a woman named Muriel Cooper, who was at the Media Lab at MIT. So I could see that computers were going to change the profession and the practice. And so I was able to kind of, with those things that I knew I was interested in, return to school and be able to focus on those interests.
Okay, awesome. And then last question for you. What concerns you about the future of design?
That designers do recognize that it is about who they are as people and what they bring. It's this conversation with Rachel, because the handwriting on the wall that a machine will be generating, the sort of the lower end of the stuff, is around the corner. And so that bringing that human element into it is maybe not my, it's both that fear and that hope.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much. And thank you to all the participants and viewers and all the AIGA volunteers, for making this happen.
Yeah. Thank you, Shakeel. Awesome. Good luck to you. You'll be around the corner from me here.
Exactly. No, I'll have to make the drive up one day.
I'd love that, or I'll make the drive down.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Good luck.
Thanks. Bye.